Good morning, everybody. I want you to thank you for joining us on our workshop around AI and Microsoft Copilot. We're just waiting for a few more people to join us, so we'll just take a moment before we get started. And uh, once we get started, then we'll go through all things AI Copilot, hopefully see ways in which it can help you and your business. And of course, there'll be a Q&A at the end where you can ask any questions. We've currently got 53 already in attendance, which is fantastic. Really great to see. We do have quite a few who are registered for today's workshop, so we will just give it another couple of minutes just to give them a chance to join us. What I will say, however, is that a recording for this event will be sent on to everybody. It will be made available, as well as the deck that we're going to go through. That will also be made available. So if someone is late coming in, it's okay. They will still get what they need. Now, just so you know, if you want to, this call is being recorded. Okay, there is a transcript running as well. This is going to be useful because it'll enable me to show how you can use Copilot within Teams itself. What I will say is that if anybody has any questions at all, there is a chat window you can throw your questions into, and we'll be able to answer those towards the end. And just bear with me for a moment. We'll just give others a chance to come in. Okay, now we'll just give it one more minute before we get started. Okay, guys, so we're going to get started now. Other people will be joining as we go along, but we'll kick off the workshop and get chatting on AI. Now, there's been some changes to my own team's environment at the moment, so I haven't got the transcript currently running. I will, however, look to get that running ASAP because I do want to try and use it to showcase how you can use Copilot within Teams itself, and it requires the transcript in order to do that. So I'm going to just turn off my camera and kick off with the webinar itself. Hopefully you're able to share my screen, but I'll just share it again. I'm going to include sound because there is a small video that I'm going to show as well as part of this workshop. So my name is John Toland. I work as a consultant with IT.ie, and we're a partner that helps them with all things Microsoft and, of course, AI related. Today's workshop is about enabling AI within your workplace and looking at a whole new way of working, utilizing things like Microsoft Copilot. Over the course of the next kind of 90 minutes, we will look at specifically Copilot for 365 and the adoption rate of Copilot itself, how quickly this is being grasped. We will be touching on things like Copilot Chat, which is a free version of the solution. We will also look to find success in AI adoption, how you can achieve that, and avoid any failure as well. I will touch on security in Copilot, and of course, if you have any questions around security or any concerns, feel free to put some questions in either the Q&A or the chat window, and we'll address those questions at the end. Or what I can try and do as well is I'll give you the chance to turn on your microphones at the end and ask any questions you have as well. I'll be looking to try and provide you guys a real world example of how you can actually use Copilot, or how we did use Copilot, in order to help create an event that didn't just save us hours in time, it actually saved us days. Now, bear with me, I'm just going to make sure that everybody is muted. And that will avoid any background noise. And then, as I mentioned, we'll get to the crux of the workshop itself. We'll look at a live demo on how you can use Copilot across the various different Microsoft applications. Excuse me. And then we will look at advice on how you can launch Copilot within your own working environment, how you can roll it out for yourselves. So the age of Copilots has arrived. Well, the thing that Microsoft are great at was creating AI. They've done an amazing job. What they're bad at is naming things, right? They went about naming Copilot in the way we see here. Everything is Copilot. You've got Copilot Studio, Copilot for Sales, Copilot for Dynamics, there's Copilot for Security. What we're going to be looking at specifically is Copilot for 365, right? And how this differentiates itself from the others, and how it differentiates itself from things like ChatGPT or Gemini or any other of those AI tools, is that it lives and breathes within your 365 environment itself, okay? It's not just something that's aligned to the web, it actually lives within your 365 environment. So when you open up office.com, you will have a Copilot option. You can use it to look up information on your emails, your Teams chats, your meetings. It also lives within the applications that you have itself. So not just utilizing it for SharePoint and OneDrive files, you can actually use it in Excel. You can use it in PowerPoint and Word and Teams and Outlook. And that will help you with all kinds of different productivity successes that you're trying for, right? The reason it's also way, way better than utilizing a ChatGPT or a Gemini or something else is that in order to use some of those tools, you may have employees, or you may have concerns about employees uploading your company data, sensitive data, customer data, private data, in order to utilize those tools. You never want to do that, right? You never want to take any data that lives within your 365 environment out of the 365 environment. Because when you do, you're taking it out of the security net that is currently protecting it. And when you take data out of your 365 environment and then upload it to a ChatGPT in order to ask it questions, etc., you're really asking for trouble. The reason Copilot 365 is so good is that you work within a Microsoft ecosystem. You work within a 365 tenant, or what we call a tenant. This AI solution lives within that tenant. It automatically inherits all of the security controls and policies that you have in place within that tenant. And nobody other than your users can see any data from your company outside of the tenant. Everybody and only anybody inside your tenant can see that. And that's why Copilot for 365 is so much better for you as an organization. Now we see here the generative AI technology and the time that it reached to reach 100 million users. This for me was a real eye-opener, right? We see the technologies below, everybody knows them, okay? Mobile phones, there's probably not a child above the age of 12 that doesn't have one of these, right? And with the internet, of course, every company in the Western Hemisphere would have the internet. And then, of course, you've got Facebook. They're over 1 billion users at this stage. But just look how long it took them to reach 100 million users as a threshold. 16 years and 7 years, and even for social media, 4.5 years. ChatGPT and AI did it in 3 months, right? That is an exceptional adoption rate. And the whole reason for this is to just emphasize how much people are going to be using AI tools going forward. To give you a very brief example, I did a course in UCD recently around AI, right? It was a diploma that I did remotely. It was every Wednesday morning. And I did it for about 12 weeks. And when I did this, I was using Copilot to help me with my lessons. So as I was attending a lesson, 3-hour lesson with the lecturer and about 20 other people in my class, I would have a Word document opened in the background. And I would simply hit dictate. And my entire lesson was dictated into a Word document, right? We're talking about a 37,000 Word document, 30 pages, in and of itself, completely useless, right? Because there's just too much information in that. But now I can use Copilot and ask it questions of that lesson. What key topics were discussed during this lesson? What real world examples were used in this lesson? Give me all the takeaways and provide a summary of everything that was agreed upon and disagreed upon within this lesson. And now when I'm doing a continuous assessment or a report or an exam, I can use those massive documents with the use of Copilot and AI to help me get up to speed really quickly on that. And this is all just to say that anybody leaving college in the next 6 months and the next year and after, they're going to be utilizing AI to get their diplomas, to get their degrees, to get their masters. Okay, some will obviously try and use them to cheat. We would not recommend that, but they're using them to get them. And when they enter the workforce, the entire next generation of people entering the workforce will have been using AI tools over the course of their college lives. And when they enter the workforce, they're going to expect them. If you have a new starter coming in a year's time and you don't have AI enablement within your organization, it would be like handing the person a fax machine and then asking them to compete with somebody that has email. It's not fair, right? We see here that in a survey done, 87% of organizations believe that AI will give them a competitive advantage. This is 100% true, right? I do not understand the 13%, believe me. That 13% will still be walking around with Walkmans, right? Playing VHS when they go home, because there's no way that AI will not give you an advantage. Here's the thing. Even as far as talent acquisition and talent retention is concerned, it will give you an advantage, because if you're offering the tools to help people make their jobs easier and better, they will go to you over the organization that doesn't offer those tools. I, however, think this statistic is actually somewhat dated, right? I think about 6 months to a year from now, it will read more like organizations will actually be at a disadvantage if you simply don't have AI. So it's brilliant that you guys are in this workshop now, learning up about AI and how it can help you, and really just kind of getting to grips with it, because it's definitely not going to be going anywhere. It is the way of the future, and it is there to help you, your departments, and your individual employees within your organization do what they do better. And I want to just quickly touch on Copilot Chat, and just be aware all the imagery that I used was created using Copilot, because I generally tend to like my presentations to be a little bit fun, just a little bit of a interesting, right? And we see here this image. This image is a great example of what Copilot is, right? It is like baby armbands when you're entering a pool. As soon as you're ready to dip your foot into the pool of AI, You want to just practice and start off light. And you can do that with Copilot Chat. This is a free version of Copilot that lives within the Edge browser. So you can roll this out to all of your employees. You can give them permissions to use this so that they can actually get familiar with using AI within the workplace. So that they can learn what is a good prompt and what is not a good prompt when asking questions of AI. And then when you're ready to graduate, right, get into the deep end, you would utilize Copilot for 365. So we see here the differences between Copilot Chat, the free version, and of course Copilot 365, your paid for subscription. The free version is great. It's got great capabilities. It's grounded in the web. You would utilize it and ask it questions, research topics, get information, whatever you need. And it has got some commercial data protection. But of course, when you're ready to graduate to the Copilot for 365 as a paid subscription, you get enterprise grade protection. It lives and is grounded within your 365 graph. So it utilizes all of your emails and your Teams chats. It lives within your 365 applications, as I mentioned earlier, so you can utilize it when you're creating documents or presentations or dealing with large data sets in Excel. And surprisingly, you also get a license. When you buy a license for Copilot for 365, it gives you a watered down version of Copilot Studio. Now, what is Copilot Studio? Well, you may have heard of agents and bots, right? You may want to be able to try and create agents and bots to do specific tasks to help you as an individual. Well, when you have a Copilot for 365 license, you get a watered down version of a Copilot Studio license in order to create agents and bots. And we will go through this at the very end of the presentation, which in and of itself is a brilliant tool. And here's just some bits of information in order to kind of try and highlight for you just how great of a value for money Copilot actually is. It's generally seen as an expense. Of course it is by customers because you have to invest in it, right? How could you not see it as an expense? But here's the thing. If you have somebody on €25 an hour and they're saving even just 2 hours a week with the help of Copilot, that's 100 hours a year, right? That equates to about 2.5 grand of time saved. That's the license for that user paying for itself 7-8 times over, right? So that's extremely powerful. And I'm going to say this straight away. 2 hours of time saved a week is spectacularly lowballing it, right? I deal with an awful lot of Microsoft partners and resellers. A normal day for me would be about maybe 70 to 100 questions coming in about Microsoft. Now, luckily for me, most people ask the same questions, right? So I know the answers to a lot of them. But of course, there'll be many in which I don't know the answer straight away. And when that was the case, I would used to have to go through the, I don't know, what can only be described as a black hole that Microsoft call a website, right? That you could literally get lost in there for days and never come out with the answer, right? And being serious, I could easily be 15, 20, 30 minutes trying to find the answer to a question, trying to get it from Microsoft themselves in that website. Now, you get 70 to 100 questions a day. If I don't know the answer to even 10 of them, right, that's 10 by 10 minutes or 10 by 20 minutes, right? That is way too long or way too much time to be wasting. Now I have the answer within 5 seconds using Copilot, right? So I'm saving easily an hour or two a day on just answering issues and questions. If I was to create a presentation, if IT.ie came to me and just said, John, we need a presentation around security in Microsoft 365 Business Premium, right? And you'll hear security a lot during this webinar because security is probably the most important thing within a 365 environment. And if they said, we need a security presentation, could you help us out? I would be able to create one for them, no problem at all. It would probably take me 1.5 hours to 2 hours to create that presentation and send it on. I can do that in about 5 minutes now using Copilot, right? And I'll hopefully be able to show you that within the demonstration. And that again is just to demonstrate that 2 hours a week is really lowballing it. And again, if you've got somebody on a 50 grand salary and they're even able to increase their productivity by 5%, that again is the license paying for itself 7 times over, right? So it really is unbelievable value for money. Of course, when you have Copilot and you're introducing AI into your working environment, you want to try and avoid failure. You want to achieve success, right? And here we have, let's just say this is me back when I used to have hair, right? Um, Me with Copilot, extremely happy. Everything's bright, loving it. Me without Copilot, it is not good, right? I'm spending 2 hours trying to answer questions. I'm spending 2 hours trying to create presentations. It's a really restrictive day, right? How do you avoid that? It's not just about introducing AI, right? Because you need to do it in the correct way. So what would be the incorrect way? Well, the incorrect way is just giving everybody a license and telling them to go nuts. That's not going to work, right? There is a way in which you can launch Copilot that will lead to success. But even just taking a step back and looking at AI in general, when you want to work with AI within your workplace, the very, very easy way to think about it in order to achieve success would be to start small and start simple, right? If you introduce AI into your working environment and try to move the earth, the moon, and the stars all in one go straight away, try to achieve spectacularly complex things, you're going to fail. And when you fail, you will lose confidence in the solution. And when you lose confidence in the solution, you'll bin it. And when you bin it, you end up going back to your old habits, and all of a sudden, you are not a leader within your industry anymore, right? Because you'll go back to your old habits, you won't be utilizing AI, and a year from now, you'll be struggling. If you start small, if you start simple, if you try and find easy wins where AI can help you speed up on a certain task, improve the quality of another task, or help you with your productivity just ever so slightly, gain those early wins, enabling you to gain confidence in the solution. And then over time, you'll grow complexity and you'll learn how to use it better. And that will then lead you to success as an organization. Okay, in order to try and do this, there are things you can ask of yourself when you're preparing to introduce AI into your environment, right? What are your organization's goals for using AI? It may seem like a simple question, but if you just actually come together as a leadership team, bring in actual people with their feet on the ground from each department, right? Because it's not just about the leadership team when you talk about AI, because the leadership team, well, they're great. And of course, I'm talking to probably mostly leadership team members. When it comes to AI, the most important people are actually the people with the feet on the ground, doing the day-to-day job. So it is important to have them in any meetings around AI because they know what needs to be done on a day-to-day basis. They know what tools they use. They know how they do things. They know what certain things are causing problems and what things aren't. So it's always important to have those people in these meetings. Put down what are your goals for using AI? What do you want to try and achieve? Right? It may seem simple, but it's actually quite useful. More importantly, what are your organization's pain points for using AI that AI can actually address? Are you spending too much time sending emails? Do you have too many Teams meetings that you can't get anything tangible done? Is it creating content or presentations for sales proposals or marketing strategies or training sessions that you're doing with your staff? Or maybe it's that you're in Excel data files that are really slowing you down, trying to get insights from massive data sets of customer sales or something else, right? If you can actually list out the pain points that you have and how AI can address them, that will really help you. Am I saying again, it may sound simple, but it's really important. And of course, you can replace the word organization with department and with individual, right? What are your organization's pain points and that AI can address? What are each department's pain points that AI can address? Because of course, what HR do and what marketing do and what sales do and admin and customer service and finance, they're all different from each other. So they'll all have their own individual unique pain points. And then, of course, at an individual level, what are your pain points that AI can address? Because even within a single department, nobody does their job the exact same way. Also, you can then look at, do you have a data strategy in place, right? Because, of course, AI is fantastic, but it's really only as good as your data. If your data is, what would be the politically correct word? Bad. We'll go with bad. If your data is bad, if it's not good, using AI and Copilot is not going to be as great as it could be, right? When your data is unstructured, unorganized, and a bit all over the place, that's not helpful. So What you would want to do is try and look at how you can structure your data, how you can organize your data, and make sure that it is as clean and as useful as possible with great templates in there and so on. And then, of course, from a security point of view, do you have the correct policies and security in place around your data? So only specific groups have access to specific data, right? And what do I mean by that? Basically, only HR and managers can see HR files. Only finance can see finance files, and so on. Do you have the correct sensitivity and confidentiality labels on confidential documents to make sure that only people who should be seeing and using those documents can see and use those documents? And that's also very important. And you can talk to your partner about getting a security review done so that they can make sure the environment is as secure as it needs to be for when you're introducing AI. Okay, because as I mentioned before, the Copilot AI tool lives within your 365 environment, right? And I can address the security in essentially a single sentence, right? It will never show any user any information at all from the 365 environment that they don't already have access to. But I will caveat that, because what it might do is show users information they didn't know they had access to. Right? And this is actually a good thing, because once you find out they have access to information that they shouldn't, you can close that gap. The gap already exists. AI is just highlighting it for you, and then you can close it. So that's a good thing, right? And it allows you to create a more secure environment, right? And again, talk to your partner, get a security review done, look at how you can get the correct policies in place for introducing AI. And then the last thing as well that you can do, and this is a bit of a word salad, right? Does your organization have the necessary infrastructure and resources to support AI initiatives? It's like, oh my God, right. All that means is, do you have a structure in place so that when you do a preliminary launch of AI, maybe you buy 5 licenses, one for each department, and you give it to 5, I don't know, AI champions, you can call them, right? Do you have a structure in place where you can actually learn from that pilot scheme, right? Maybe they can come together every Monday or every Friday for half an hour and talk to each other. Where did Copilot work really well? Where did it help you? What tasks were you able to use it in? How did you do that? Where did it save you time? Where did it make you more productive? Where did it improve the quality of your output? And most importantly, where did it not? So then as an organization, you can actually make an educated and informed decision about how you actually want to roll this out across the rest of the organization so that you can get the most value for money. And that's important. So again, this deck will be sent out to everybody, and you can maybe use this slide, take this slide, and ask yourself these questions. Right? Now, what I want to do is I'm going to touch on security. I'm going to play a little quick 1 minute and 30-second video around security. Very, very easy. You should be able to hear the sound, but I will just ask you that if you can't hear this, turn on your microphone and shout at me. And just tell me that you can't hear it.
Microsoft 365 Copilot is transforming work with the power of generative AI. It's built on Microsoft's comprehensive approach to enterprise-grade security, compliance, privacy, identity, and responsible AI. Copilot automatically inherits your organization's Microsoft 365 security, compliance, and privacy policies, so you know your data is protected and always in your control. It all starts with your Microsoft 365 tenant. Data stored in your tenant is encrypted and only available to the users within that tenant. Your existing Microsoft 365 permissions and policies ensure that data won't leak between users and groups. And Copilot users only have access to data they've been granted permission to see in Microsoft 365, using the same technology customers have relied on for years. Your tenant sits inside the Microsoft 365 service boundary, where Microsoft's commitments to security, compliance, data location, and privacy are upheld. The Copilot large language models, or LLMs, that process your data sit within that same boundary, much like other Microsoft 365 services. Microsoft does not have eyes-on access, which means no one can view your data. Your data is not used to train the LLMs. And our EU customers can be confident that their data is processed within the EU data boundary. Microsoft 365 Copilot, enterprise-grade security and privacy for the era of generative AI.
That, of course, is one of the better videos from Microsoft because it's a nice, small, bite-sized video that can be used. Now, again, your data is your data, okay? The Copilot doesn't use your data to train, as I mentioned before, the large language model. It doesn't use your data to train that OpenAI foundation. Microsoft have trillions of publicly available data in order to train that model. Your data is also protected, okay? So basically, when you introduce Copilot into your environment, it will automatically inherit all of the security controls and the policies that you have in place already. All I would emphasize is that you do talk to your partner to make sure that those security controls and policies are what are required, right? And we would recommend looking at a zero trust posture, utilizing Business Premium as a security subscription so that you can make sure that everything is as secure as it can possibly be. So before we do a live demo, I'm going to take you just very, very quickly through a real world example where we actually used Copilot to really great effect, right? I was looking to try and set up a event where we were going to take all of our partners or some of our partners through Copilot and how you can create prompts in Copilot that work really well. And we also coincidentally had a massive annual road show that we do every year for our partners, right? So our marketing team are like flat out on the road show. So we were looking at this going, right, we need to create this event. We're obviously going to need help from marketing, but they're busy. So he says, let's try and use Copilot to get through as much of this as we can, right? So the first thing we did was asked it, could you suggest a number of names for an AI event where we're planning to educate our partners around how to build useful prompts using AI tools, right? And we got a list of names, right? Prompt Mastery Workshop. Okay, that's okay, right? AI Prompting Bootcamp, right? That maybe doesn't sound like something you want to go to, right? Sounds like hard work. So we just asked it for more suggestions. We got 10 more suggestions, and straight off the bat, prompt craft kind of just stood out, right? I mean, it sounded like Minecraft, the art of crafting a prompt. Minecraft as well was also a Microsoft property, so we thought, you know what, we could use that. We just ignored the rest, and we thought prompt craft is great. So now we have a name for our event. And we asked then Copilot, could you actually create a banner for the event, right? An image that we could actually use in email invitations, social media posts. And considering the event will be called Prompt Craft, would you be able to design it with the text Prompt Craft in the image in the design of Minecraft, right? And this was done, I think, before September. And text in AI, it doesn't spell the letters when you get an image. It actually just draws pixels. So a lot of the time it's spelt incorrectly when you use AI. However, I've noticed over the last couple of months, I was doing a lot of images around Christmas. I was getting a lot of different words in, you know, surface sales for Christmas and loads of different things spelt brilliantly using Copilot in these images. So it's getting a lot better at it. But the first image we got back after we put this prompt in, it was nice, right? It was spelt relatively okay. A bit bland, a bit, you know, desaturated. It wasn't that bright. The next image we got, because we got a set of like 4 images or whatever, that was a bit futuristic. I know we're talking about AI here, but it was still a bit dark and futuristic. There's 2 M's in prompt, and I don't know if it's just me, but the A looks like it's I don't know, a ghost from Pac-Man or something. So we kind of thought, okay. But the third image we got was perfect. It was bright, it was vibrant, it was colorful. Prompt craft was perfectly displayed, center, and we thought, you know what, that's great. Let's use that image. Now, I asked Glenn and our marketing team, right? If I was smart enough to come up with the name of Prompt Craft, which I wasn't, right? And if I was, you know, smart enough to come up with, or creative enough to come up with the whole Minecraft team, which I also wasn't, how long would it take him to create an image for us to use? And he said, starting from scratch, creating an image around that theme, etc., it would probably take about 2 days. And we had this all done within a couple of hours in the morning. The name, the theme of the event, now the imagery we're going to use for the event. And we got that image blown up to an 8-foot by 4-foot light that we were able to use at certain events. It's really, really nice. So this was great. We were saving days, and our marketing team wasn't being overstretched because we knew they were busy with another event that they were planning. But I went further then and used Copilot for other things, like could you help draft an agenda for the event? Right? It will be on the 24th of September. It's going to be in Goffs. It's going to run from this time till that time and so on. Now, there's probably not a single individual within this room that can't create an agenda, okay? That's fine. It's not that difficult. But it is monotonous and it is time consuming. Within 5 seconds, we had an agenda for the event, all done up. And this is where I just like to stop for a second and emphasize one really important thing about Copilot and just simply AI in general. When you put a prompt in and you get something back, you never just take that thing as your own and run with it, right? You never just pass that off as your own and go, job done. Anytime you use Copilot, it will always say, this is AI generated and it may be incorrect. It is up to you to then take that thing you've been given and work with it. Make it your own. The best thing about AI and Copilot is that you never have to start with a blank screen again. That it gives you ideas. It helps you get to an endpoint. It doesn't give you the endpoint, right? I can't reiterate this enough. It is a co-pilot. It's not a pilot, right? It's an assistant that helps you do your job. It doesn't do it for you, okay? If it could do your job for you, there'd be no need for you, and nobody wants that, right? So it's very, very important that you take what it gives you, you work on it, and you actually get what you need. And I just basically streamlined the agenda a bit very, very quickly, and we had that to run with. Not difficult at all. And the whole thing about prompt craft is that the better your prompt into the AI tool, the less work you actually have to do with it to get to where you want to be. And that's important. We ended up taking the image and using it for our website as a landing page for our partners, right? And you see here, if I go into the website, we ran a Prompt Craft 2 event because it was so successful. Our speakers are all with Minecraft imagery, etc. We had the agenda spelled out, great imagery again with Minecraft. And then, of course, a booking page that's available for our partners to book for the event. And we're going to be running a Prompt Craft 3 in the coming months because it was so successful. So that's just, again, something to show just how much we were able to do utilizing Copilot. Now, what I'll do is I will jump into a quick live demo on how you can use Copilot across various applications, right? And I'll start within Office 365 itself. When you go and you type into Office 365, you'll be met with this section here. And if you have a Copilot license, you will see this here on the left-hand side. And when you're in Copilot, you will see that you have a work web toggle, right? So if we look at the web for argument's sake, you can ask any questions you want of Copilot, research any topics, get information on anything you need, right? I have a document just listed with prompts that I use on a day-to-day basis, right? And what I have here as well is an actual question a partner asked me that I didn't know the answer to off the top of my head. And essentially all it was, is data loss prevention a feature of a Microsoft E3 subscription? And I didn't know, so I was like 10 minutes looking for the answer to this, where then I remembered, actually I can just ask Copilot. And that's another thing to kind of keep a note of. You and all of your employees have spent the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years not using AI. So you really need to try and get a routine going where you utilize the solution. So I put the question in, I hit go, and within 5 seconds I have the answer. Yes, data loss prevention is in fact a part of the Microsoft E3 subscription. And I can see as well here, other prompts it's asking if I want to use. What are the policies available? How do you set it up? How can you customize it? Really useful things. It also shows me the resources where it's pulling the information from. And that's also really important. Now, if you look here, this one, it's not a Microsoft website, right? I don't know what website it is, but let's pretend for argument's sake this said Wikipedia, right? Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't necessarily want to use Wikipedia as a source of information if I need it for a business sense, right? Because anybody can edit Wikipedia. So what you could do is you can simply ask Copilot the question and then give it a source. Say to it, you know what? Only source the information and answer from Microsoft websites. and that will help. And then, of course, you'll get the answer back within a couple of seconds, and the information is only being sourced from Microsoft, which is extremely useful. Other things that you can do is you can answer any other questions that you might. I had to try and think of things to answer it just for a demo's purpose, right? One of those things where if I was asked to create a marketing campaign around security awareness and business premium as a license, if my boss asked me to do that, I'd probably get overwhelmed. I wouldn't know what to do, right? Because I don't work in marketing, etc. And essentially, I'd probably get a bit lost. Now, I can just put a prompt into Copilot. Create a step-by-step guide on building a marketing awareness campaign around security and business premium and how it protects customer environments. And include the best way to reach customer bases and include above-the-line marketing and etc., whatever I want that post or prompt to be. And within a few seconds, I now have a guideline that I can use, signposts that I can tick as I go along in order to build out a marketing campaign. Like that in and of itself is extremely helpful, right? And then let's say my boss came to me and said, you know what, John, we need that ready to go by April 1st. I could ask Copilot, I could say, can you create a schedule on how to, a schedule on the above to be completed by, let's say, March 30th. And again, within a few seconds, I now have a schedule and a roadmap on all the different things that I can do on each day in order to get it completed for when I need to do it. Right? Again, really helpful tool for me in order to do my job in this instance. Now, you can literally ask this anything. You can research any topic, get answers to any questions, get help and step-by-step guides to anything you want. You could ask for a step-by-step guide on baking an apple crumble, right? And you will have it within seconds. Not sure what the use case for that would be. Probably not a business one, but still very, very helpful. I was doing a live event a couple of months back actually now for a customer who was a shipping firm, right? And at the end of the event, one of the ladies came up to me and asked me, could Copilot create a Python script that would show a heat map, right, based on certain units of measure and so forth? And I had no idea. I just kind of looked at her and I was like, I have absolutely no idea. That's not something I would have ever asked, okay? But these being a shipping firm and their purpose is to make sure that ships can come and go on time, it seemed fairly prevalent. So I said, well, let's just ask and find out, right? I was one of these live by the sword, die by the sword thing, you know? So I put in the prompt, which I then saved. Can you create a Python script to create a cold to hot, blue to red heat map based on, let's just change it to 300 units of measure and display the heat map and show the code used to create it. Now, this will probably take a little bit longer than my step-by-step guide on baking an apple crumble because it's slightly more complex, but I was delighted that it actually did it for me live in that workshop I was doing. Really great stuff. Right, and here we have our Python code being created in order to create our heat map, and then of course it's going to generate the heat map for us with these random 300 units of measure that of course you input your own figures and it'll probably look like a proper heat map. And I was dumbfounded by that. I thought that's absolutely astonishing because that meant if I have a database and I have a code for the database, I can put it into Copilot and ask it to make that code more impressive. I can ask it to be whether it's Excel formulas that I need, whether it's HTML or website code in order to create a website or a website page for various different tasks. Whether it's to streamline a database and make it more efficient, give me the code that would achieve that or something, right? Lots of different things. It's almost infinite what you can utilize this for. But where again we differentiate itself from anything else is if we go to work, we can now see how Copilot can be utilized within the working environment itself. We see here I have a workshop. I can ask it to prep me for that meeting, and it will do it. I could ask Copilot on the beginning of any day, list for me all meetings I have this week, right? So if I said, for argument's sake, list all meetings I have on Saturday, right? Now, obviously, I shouldn't have any meetings on a Saturday. I don't work on a Saturday, but I created some just for the purpose of this, right? And we can see here, I've got a sales pitch meeting for a company, Red Balloon, right? That's at Saturday morning. I've got an internal sales meeting then after that. I have a performance review. Let's hope that goes well. And then I've got a framework partner call in the afternoon, right? Great stuff, right? I'm able to help get ready for this meeting. Now, other things that I can do is I can look at getting ready for those meetings. This sales pitch I have, what I can do is I can ask Copilot to list all emails I have with that customer, summarize all those emails in order to get ready for that sales pitch, right? Again, really, really helpful within the working environment. I could hit / and look up any document that I have. If I have a document like this one here, right, which I think is a business premium document around security, right? This is like a 4 to 5 page document. I can ask Copilot, summarize this document into 10 bullet points, right? To help me get up to speed quickly, right? And Copilot will essentially summarize that 4 or 5 page document in 10 quick bullet points. And I can do that for all my documents. And I don't have to worry about the data or the documents themselves ever leaving my secure 365 environment. And that's what's really, really, really important. Now, I'm going to jump into, in a moment, the different Microsoft applications. And we'll be able to have a look at how it works in that. I'm just going to take a 2-minute break before we take a look. So as I mentioned, we have the different applications, of course, that you can utilize Copilot in: Word, Excel, PowerPoint. I'm going to try and show you.
It happened before. It came back, but I don't know what's happened.
Bear with me now, and I will just make sure everybody's
Really
muted.
fucking annoying.
Bear with me. Now, all muted. And yeah, we look at it within the Microsoft applications, right? So we're looking at a Word document here. If I open up a new document, you will see that when I do, I have a Copilot option just here that I can use in order to draft whatever I need. I can draft a blog, I can draft a report, a letter, I can do whatever I need to do by utilizing this and putting a prompt in, right? So if I was to take a prompt here and just for argument's sake, I will use a prompt here that I had. Again, I was doing a live event. I was in the Microsoft offices and I was doing it for solicitors, right? We may have some solicitors within this event today. And they were kind of struggling to see where they would use Copilot in their day-to-day function, right? You probably couldn't get more different than a solicitor's day-to-day and my own. But one of them actually used Copilot and they came up to me and they just gave me this prompt and said, just put this in. And all it says is, I'm an Irish solicitor, draft a letter to a client who has instructed me to sell their house, outlining the details of the Irish conveyancing process, the documents they must provide me, how the process will work, and then include an estimate of fees. And then it gives a resource, which is always very, very important. Access internet resources, particularly the Law Society of Ireland. So I hit generate, and within 20 seconds, I have a letter that I can then utilize that gives me the entire conveyancing process, as you saw, the documents required, as you see, an estimate of all the fees that is there, and I can now use that. And of course, I'm going to tweak it. I'm going to brush it up a little bit, but I have exactly what I need within a few seconds. And you can do that around anything, any topic, okay? Excuse me if you hear a dog barking in the background there. If I look up another blank document, okay, we will see, for instance, if I look up another prompt here, you can not only create any kind of document or blog post that you want, you can also compare documents, right? Now, what would be a use case for comparing documents? Well, you could have a tender and you have a response to your tender. Well, you could ask Copilot, compare my response to the tender itself. Have I answered all the questions? Have I addressed all the concerns within the tender? Copilot will be able to let you know. Okay. You can also then ask Copilot, for instance, if you have a couple of contracts, right? Are all the clauses that are in contract A also in contract B? And Copilot will be able to show you. I, however, have a use case where I used Copilot to create a job spec. Right? Did it in about 10 seconds. It was absolutely perfect. It was a job spec for a cloud security sales specialist. Right? So what I had then was simply comparing the CVs that I get in for people applying for that job. Right? So if I want to compare a CV, let's just say I have 3 CVs that are all me, right? They're all just me in different stages of my life, right? So I want to compare this CV with the CV, and let's also include the CV, right, to the job spec, which I've ingeniously named job spec, right, just to keep things nice and simple. And I'm asking Copilot, highlight who's the best person for the job, rate the CVs from 1 to 10 against the job spec, and provide the information in the form of a report and include a table at the end. And of course, within a few seconds, I know exactly who the best person is for this job, and more importantly, why. And you can see it here. Lisa is a 10 out of 10, Homer and Bart 1 out of 10, right? So she is clearly the best person for this job. And if anybody ever asks you why you're putting that person through to the next stage of the interviews, well, it's because of this, right? It's because Homer's only worked in McDonald's and Burger King and UCI, and Lisa has actually got 16 years experience working in various different businesses with Microsoft solutions, so she gets the job. And you can play with the prompt to make it look whatever way you want. If I change the prompt and I ask for it in the form of simple, quick bullet points, right, to help me get up to speed quickly, right, even just that, and set it off again, I'll get the information back. The rating may vary very, very slightly, but you see here, now it's all in a single page, very quick and easy to read. And I can use that now to put someone through to the next stage of the interview. So really, really great for comparing documents with each other. Also, very quickly, what you can do is you could look to, if you've got really good templates saved that you can use all the time, right? I created a document, right, because I was bored. I created a really quick document, which was just a document around Superman, I think, right? Just for something to do. Now, if I wanted to, I could ask Copilot, create this document and change all references of Superman, Cal, and Clark to John, and keep everything else the same. All right, something as simple as that. What you'll see then is I get a brand new document in the exact same structure. Everything else is the exact same as the document I already have, but with the changes I've asked it to do. And you can see now, instead of it being everything you need to know about Superman, it's everything you need to know about John, right? And that's where it's really, really impressive, right? Jonathan and Martha Kent were the ideal parents for John, and so forth, right? So if you had templates that you could use, you could just recreate those using Copilot really quickly, just asking it to change maybe the name, the date of birth, the address, some figures or facts, etc. And you get a whole new document really quickly. Again, it's just about finding areas in which you can save time. If I look at PowerPoint, right? PowerPoint is another thing that I have to use a lot, whether it's for training sessions or sales proposals or anything else. And as I mentioned earlier, if I needed to create a presentation around security in 365, it would probably take about an hour and a half to 2 hours. But with the use of Copilot, I can do it in about 5 minutes. Now, it is currently 54 minutes to 12, right? 55 now. So a perfect time to start trying to create this. If I create it from a prompt, it's actually not that good, right? It's not that useful. But if I create it from an existing file, it's really powerful. Now, if you have the file, you can just put it in here and use it as a presentation. But if you don't, you can just create the file in Word first. So for instance, I'm going to create a new document and I'm going to create it around business premium and security, right? So if I just take this prompt here and I ask Copilot very quickly, create a report around security and business premium, emphasize the importance of data protection and compliance for small to medium businesses, right? I take that. And then because this is for the purposes of a presentation, I just use these as headings. I want an introduction to business premium. I want an overview of security features, case studies and best practices. I don't need that, right? What I do want is, let me see, reputation damage, right? That a security breach can cause. Okay, so that's one thing. The financial costs of a security breach, and then I'm going to add a conclusion at the end. That's it. So now I'm dictating exactly what's going to be covered within this document and presentation, but I'm also dictating the order in which it is so that it will also be the order in which everything is in the presentation, right? So I just ask that to go, and within 10 seconds, I have my 2 to 3 page document, right? And because I know this topic really well, I can probably just speed read through it and make sure everything is as I want it to be. And then I keep it. And of course, you can amend this. I can say, for instance, you know what? I want this information. I'll highlight it, click Copilot. I want it in the form of a table, right? So now I've got a table there instead of this paragraph. And I just delete the paragraph that's no longer needed. And I can also say, for instance, this conclusion, right? Maybe it's a bit wordy. In conclusion, Microsoft Business Premium provides a small, okay, no, bit boring. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to click Copilot. I'm going to ask Copilot to rewrite this in a more casual tone. And I get a new paragraph, which will hopefully sound a little bit more casual. In short, Business Premium offers small to medium-sized businesses a fantastic set of tools and to boost productivity while keeping it secure and compliance. Great, I'll keep that, right? And I'll delete this instead. But as soon as you have the document that you want in order to do your presentation, all you need to do then is, I'm going to just simply copy the link, right? Which is copied. But in here, in your presentation, you just click create a presentation from a file, find your file, I'll just paste the link to it, and click go. And now Copilot is going to create a presentation with the headings that I wanted from my file. So I know all the information that are in these slides being generated is perfect. And it's in the order I want them in. It's even adding speaker notes if you're a kind of person that uses speaker notes. And now I have a very bland, albeit, you know, bland and boring set of slides. I know the information in them is perfect. So what I can do is I simply click on design. I can go to, let's say you have a company template that you've saved with your own color branding and color palette, your own font, your logo always in the bottom corner, whatever it is you use. I'll just choose, let's say we'll go with orange today. We'll be a bit brighter, right? So this is my template. And if I go into designer, I can now simply quickly go through each of these slides one by one, making them look and feel the way I want. See here with the smart art, this is a nice this is a nice little agenda. I have an introduction to business premium. You see it's automatically brought an image in. If I don't like it, I can remove it. Just take away this little box that appears and my designer kicks back in. And now I've got smart art options, which is always preferable. So I'll go with this one. And I go through each of these slides, selecting the smart art I want to help tell the story. Overview and security features. I like to look at this. All right, we go down here for the benefits and the protection of data compliance. That's nice. We see here we've got damage reputations. Here's the table that I had. I'm going to keep that table. Let's go with this one. Looks pretty good. We'll look up the financial costs of a security breach. I'm going to go here. Maybe I'll change the color to red because it's a very, very important thing, financial costs. I have a conclusion. I'm going to remove the image. I don't like it. Let's say I want to use my own image. Well, if I want to, I could go into my image library and simply pick an image, right? Drop it in. And now I have an image for my conclusion that I'll use instead around compliance. And let's say I don't have an image. Well, I could use Copilot to generate one for me. If I go into the web, I could simply ask Copilot, create an image, 3D CGI render of a hacker in a blue hood sitting at a window with rain outside and a laptop on a desk with matrix code in red on the screen. Something like that, right? Just really unique. You can get as creative and as fun or as you want, right? And again, depending on your audience and the context of your presentation, you can make this as formal as you want, as light as you want. So, you know, this being a hacker, I'm going to keep it relatively light just because this is just for practice purposes. Now, we see here, I have my presentation. You know, I've got my hacker. It's red code here, the rain outside. It all looks good. I'll go with this one. I'm going to just simply copy that and I'm just going to paste it into my presentation at the end. Now, it is 1 minute past 12. This presentation took 6 minutes to create. The information in it is perfect. It all looks really well now. It flows really well. If I want to, I can spend more time going through what smart art I want to use. But ultimately, what's the most important is the information in it, which is all derived from my existing document or my document that I made. So I know it's good. 6 minutes. That's saving me 2 hours there and then. And now I can actually spend more time learning the presentation, practicing the presentation, making sure that it flows well so that the person receiving it is getting a better experience, right? And that will be PowerPoint. If we jumped into Excel, you can see here, I've got a very large database, right? This is like a few, I don't know, 100, if not thousands of lines long of car sales that are being sold to different companies across the world, right? Now, many of you, whether it's in sales positions or financial positions, will have to deal with large data sets, right? And the hardest part is maybe getting insights from that data set, right? You have to create pivot tables and charts, and that can be time consuming, and sometimes it's difficult to kind of get what you want. Well, if you have Copilot, you can ask it for those insights. I could ask Copilot now, show me the top 20 customers by sales and create a bar chart. And Copilot should be able to go through this data set and then based on the sales, highlight for me the top 20 customers. And it'll even create a chart, as you can see there, that when I click on add to new sheet, it will add it to a new sheet. There's my pivot table with my top 20 customers by sales and my visual representation of that data that I could now copy and paste into a presentation if I needed to, all there within a few seconds. Very, very useful. And you can get insights on anything, right? I could ask it for argument's sake, show me the top 5, let's say 3, top 3 selling product line. And create a pie chart, right? Just for argument's sake. And that's the thing. You can ask it to show me what are my 5 best performing countries by sales. What are my 5 worst performing countries by sales? What were my best quarters from, what were my quarter results from best to worst? And it will give you all of that information as you ask it. And here we go. I added into a new sheet and I can see my 3 top performing products. Classic cars, vintage cars, and motorcycles, right? And here they are here. And we can see straight away on the pie chart, and obviously with the numbers, that this one is outselling even the other 2. And it's great. You can get insights on anything you want. But you can also use Copilot to actually manipulate the data itself. So for instance, I have sales here, lots of figures, really hard to look at. if I made up a fictitious scenario that maybe over 3,000 is good and under 3,000 is bad, let's just say for argument's sake, I could ask Copilot, right? If I didn't know how to use conditional formatting, I could just ask Copilot, format the D column to show all sales over 3,000 in a blue cell and all sales under 3,000 in a red cell. Something simple like that. Again, Copilot very, very quickly should be able to work out the conditional format required in order to achieve this, put it together there, and once it's finished, it will allow me to apply that to my data set. And of course, now I can very quickly and easily see what is good and what is bad based on my fake little scenario. And you can get really complex. I can change all of these dollar signs to euros. I could add 2 decimal places or remove 2 decimal places by just asking Copilot to do it. If I wanted to create formulas like an if statement, let's say I wanted an if statement, and I worked in operations. I was doing an operations role for a company for a number of years where I had to deal with bonus structures and bonuses, etc. And I had if statements that were like a paragraph long, okay? A real headache. If I wanted an if statement, then I'll just create a simple one, right? But I could just ask Copilot, create an if statement that shows the word rubbish for sales below 3,000 and the word amazing for sales above 3,000, right? Just something simple like that. And I kick it off. Again, within a number of seconds, Copilot will create the if statement I need, the formula I need in order to achieve this task. It will actually give me the option to add it as a column within the data set. You see here, insert column. But it also gives it to me so that I can copy it. And if I just paste it in where I want it, I have my if statement working perfectly. And not only can you create really complex formulas if required, you can also fix a formula, right? If this if statement was broken for whatever reason, let me see here. It's going to try and do a few things to break this, right? You see there, it's broken now. I could copy this and just paste it into Copilot and say, why is this not working? And Copilot should be able to tell me exactly what's going on, but not only that, it fixes it. And I just take this now and just paste it back in. Sorry, I'm going to paste it here, and it's fixed. Job done. So you can fix formula, maybe not working. You can create a formula. Really, really great use cases in regards to that. Now, you can use Copilot in Outlook in order to, and my Outlook is a live environment, so I won't be able to show that. But essentially, you can look up and summarize loads of different email threads within Outlook, or you can draft emails utilizing Copilot. And of course, in Teams, when you have a meeting, you can use Copilot to essentially look up anything that's been said within that meeting, right? As an example, when I did that UCD course, I coincidentally also had my team meeting every Wednesday for 2 hours that I had to miss for 12 weeks. But what I would do is simply go in and ask Copilot. The first thing I'd always ask is, show me every time John Toland was mentioned in this meeting, right? So that's just like, okay, I'm not in trouble. That's good. It's a good start. Then I'd say, show me every time Copilot was mentioned in the meeting, because I'm kind of looking after that maybe. And then I would say, give me all the highlights and the key takeaways from this meeting, and then summarize the meeting as a whole. And within 10 minutes, I'm completely caught up on a 2-hour meeting I didn't even attend. So in Teams, you can have sales meetings with potential clients, financial controllers, managing directors, chief operations officers. And you can ask Copilot, well, what did these people agree on? What did they not agree on? What did they like? What did they dislike? What actions do I have from this meeting that I need to complete, and when do I need to complete them by? And you can get all that information back from Copilot. That in itself is worth its weight in gold to a salesperson or a manager or just anybody. Being able to extract any piece of information or anything you want from any meetings that you've attended is just insanely powerful. Now, if we just jump back into the presentation very quickly, I want to go through the last thing really, which is Copilot Studio, right? If I just go into the slide here, you'll see that Copilot Studio, you do get a little watered down license for this when you have a Copilot 365 license. And essentially it allows you to access Copilot Studio and create agents, which is actually very, very simple. And remember what I said about achieving success and avoiding failure? You want to start small and then grow complexity over time. So we have customers who have been into us, talking to us about creating agents so that the agent exists on their website, answers questions for potential customers and customers, sends the customers links to booking pages so that they can book various different things. Really complex stuff, very, very great use cases. And we have customers who are looking to, there actually was one able to create tenders using agents. The agent would create a tender because it was pointed at a knowledge base of tenders that they did. And the normal process, I think, took about 2 days to create the tender. But with the help of the agent, and then obviously doing some work afterwards, they were able to complete them in 2 hours. And that is a spectacular use case with an easy, tangible value for money, utilizing it in that way. But as I said, start small and grow complexity. If you see here, I created a couple of agents, really simple, right? Private Cash is one of my agents. He is pointing at a price file. And it's a single Excel document. And when you're creating an agent, it's very, very easy. If I click on create an agent here and click new agent, you'll see what needs to be done. You give it a name. You give it an icon, which is like 30 pixels by 30 pixels, very small, it doesn't matter. You give it a description, it also doesn't matter. The next 2 things are what's important. You give it an instruction. What is it you want this agent to do for you? How do you want it to display the information back to you, etc.? And then you point it at a knowledge base. That can be a single Word document. It can be a library of documents, a library of information. It can be a SharePoint file. It can be a single Excel file. It can be a website, right? If you click add knowledge, you'll see here I can pick websites, SharePoint sites, Dataverse sites. Now, if you need to be more complex and you want to utilize maybe third-party tools, you can do that, but you'll probably need to get a Copilot license, right? Copilot Studio license, which is different to 365. But if you're keeping it more simplified and you only want to use like websites or documentation, OneDrive files, etc. that you have, then you can do it with your Copilot for 365 license itself. And as you can see, when you create that agent, which is very, very simple, you have it there. And you can publish the agent so it shows as an app in Teams so other staff members could utilize it. Now you see here my Copilot Private Cache. I set him up, but here's the important part. He's pointing at a knowledge base of a single document. And this is the instruction. Access the pricing file. Always return a cost and a recommended retail price with any term commitments and billing cycles that product has. And any segment, non-profits, schools or education, commercial, or the specific segment asked for. And then this is important, always provide the answer in the form of, and then it does this, right? Because all of our pricing has annual commitment, annual billing, annual commitment, monthly billing, monthly commitment, monthly billing. You'll know yourself from buying 365. So now instead of me searching individual products and prices and stuff like that, I could just put 6 products in here and I'll get the pricing for all of them in that format, exactly as I need it. That agent works perfectly for me in that use case. And it's very simple to create. Okay, hopefully that's very, very clear and easy to understand. Lots of creative use cases you can come up with. And then before we finish up and just go into maybe a quick Q&A at the end and answer any questions that you might have, this is simply how we would recommend you launch AI within your environment. As I maybe mentioned earlier, you purchase 1 to 2 licenses for each department, right? 2 so people can learn from each other, but 1 to 2 licenses for each department. So if you've got 5 departments, that would be 5 or 10 licenses. You identify your Copilot champions that you're going to give that license to. Somebody who is innovative, somebody who wants to learn, somebody who wants to try and utilize the tool to get the most out of it. Someone wants to try and break it. And in the meantime, you roll out Copilot Chat to all your other users so they can just become familiar with how AI tools work. In the meantime, your partner can provide you with a security review, help you create a security posture within your 365 environment that will make sure everything is secure. And then we have that structure I mentioned earlier. You put that structure in place where your Copilot champions come together once a week and they talk to each other. Where did it work well? Where did it not? Where did it save you time? Where did it not? Where did it make you more productive? Where did it not? And that way then, after about a month, you can make an educated, informed decision on how you're going to roll the license out across the rest of your organization. And that's it, guys. That brings us to the end of the workshop and the demo. And if you have any questions at all, I'll be happy to try and answer them for you. You can turn on your microphones and ask away. In the meantime, I'm just going to check the Q&A section here because there is a couple of things. What do we need in terms of a policy for AI use? Will you be sending out the slides? Yes, the deck will be sent out, Teresa, absolutely. You will also get a recording of this. And in regards to a policy, you should absolutely create an AI policy within your organization. First and foremost, do not use ChatGPT or any other external AI tool that exists outside of your 365 environment. Absolutely do not upload any company data, customer data, or sensitive data to any external AI tool that lives outside of your 365 environment. And then, of course, you will have ethical parts of that policy that you need to introduce and so forth, right? But in terms of a policy, definitely try and create one. You could use Copilot, of course, to try and help create one or give you the bones of what one would look like and take it from there. And if I look at the chat window, if I just stop sharing here, I can see privacy notice link for recording is only in Irish. Not advised that webinar will be recorded. No consent requested, leave webinar. That's fine. That's no problem at all. If you didn't want to be recorded, you can just, well, first of all, you'd be able to simply turn off your camera and you wouldn't be. And it's not being transcribed because currently the transcription function is not working within Teams. That I'm going to get resolved, but that's no problem. What about the possibility of a bias regards to a webinar CV comparison? Well, it's a great question, Dale. There wouldn't be any bias. In fact, the reason AI is so good in this particular scenario is that it helps you alleviate bias. It also helps alleviate any unconscious or conscious bias around gender or race, simply because it doesn't take any of that into account, right? You've got a job spec, and then you just simply compare the CVs to that job spec. You dictate what's in the job spec. So if the job spec is like they need 8 years experience, they need experience with these various tools, they need to have an education of this level or greater, and so on, then it only compares those things, right? Race and gender are never even considered, and they should never be considered for any purpose whatsoever. So with that, you're actually avoiding bias. In fact, if I actually put the question or the prompt into Copilot and said, who's the best person for the job, plus I only want to hire women, or I only want to hire men, it would actually break. It will just tell me I can't complete this task. So it actually helps avoid that, which is a really good question. Apologies, Paul had to leave. That's great, Paul. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and hopefully you can watch the end of the recording. Other people just liking the presentation, which is really great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. Remind us again of the cost of Copilot. Be able to talk to your partner about the cost of a Copilot license. It is roughly around 340 or 50 per user per year. However, when you first buy a Copilot license, there are two things to consider. One is that you could co-term it to your existing licenses, so that if you've got an existing 365 license that ends in June, technically you could get a Copilot license, co-term it to also end in June, so that you could utilize it for that short period before you decide to embark on a full annual commitment. The presentation you created for PromptCraft, was that done using Copilot within the PowerPoint app, and did you use another tool within that pilot? Well, the imagery for PromptCraft was created using Copilot, and we also used an AI tool within Adobe to extend it to be more of a banner. So we utilized a couple of AI tools in order to achieve that. The deck would have been created to use Copilot. Then we would have done our own work on top of it with animations and moving things, etc., just to make it more useful. But Copilot is for me. I always use it to create the bones of what I need. Even as you saw with the presentation on security, all of the bones and the information was created using Copilot, and then I can just work on that and spruce it up a bit, maybe spend a bit of time animating some of the bullet points, etc. But once I have the bones created using Copilot, I'm saving a lot of time. Question for you: if you can call me out, I'll put the mic on. Yes, Matt, please go ahead.
How's it going?
How you doing, Matt? I can hear you there.
Oh, good. Yeah. So I guess I actually have two questions, but I'll give you my first question first. Um, I'm just trying to see some like overlap of how I guess my existing kind of like workflow works, but if I want to switch to 365. So I use Claude, it's like the projects aspect of Claude, if you're familiar with that.
So is this like well, are you talking about a Microsoft solution now or an external solution?
Well, this is external, but basically I'm trying to ask like how would there be a comparison of how would use how you would basically use that same kind of workflow, but in 365? But
So
basically, Claude projects, you can
yeah,
upload like your documents, and then you basically talk to them about the documents, and it basically frames things a lot better. So the main thing I use the AI for the moment is basically like the quality aspect of Tinder, like
yeah.
Tinders for stuff. So obviously in the AI database, if you just start asking like questions about quality or environmental, whatever, it's going to give you something for like a Fortune 500 country or company or something else, but not for something like myself, like 25 employees in
Yeah,
Ireland, small
depending,
construction.
of course, on how long, complex, and sophisticated your prompt is, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. And I've been doing it for a while, so
Because
now
you can, yeah, you can
I
spec
understand.
yeah,
You can shape it obviously much more, but
yeah,
then
and make it more
also you can
relevant to
also
yourself.
yeah, and also if I dump 10 other tenders that I've successfully done in there, it also shapes it to my kind of internal processes or blah blah blah.
Yeah,
But so when you're doing the demo, you're kind of doing like within a single document, but then there's something about like the tenant or something. Is that like basically if I have like a folder on the share file of my
yeah.
previous tenders, but then I also make a file of like, I guess the contract documents of the exact tender I'm going for. Can I point it to those things? Does it understand the
It
difference
depends.
or?
So you can utilize it, but I always mentioned at the beginning, you want to start small and build complexity, right? So you're starting very, very complex with what you're trying to achieve here, right? So the question would be, first of all, you use 365, yes?
Yeah,
Right. So you've got email, you've got Teams, you've got Word, you've got Excel, you've got PowerPoint. You can find use cases for Copilot for 365 within those applications with regards to your day to day, right? In something as complex as your tenders, if you have those tenders within a folder, within your SharePoint or OneDrive, then you can utilize Copilot and ask questions of various things and get help with various things. But if you create an agent and the agent is pointing at a library of tenders, and then you give that agent an instruction of how you want tenders created using all the existing tenders that you've already created in that library of information, then you can ask that agent, create me a brand new tender in the same structure as all of these tenders based on your instruction, right? You've already given it an instruction on what you want it to do. And then that agent could go about creating that tender as best as it can for you, giving you something to work from, right? And then you can utilize Copilot within that tender to spruce it up, to change the language, to help with various things, and so forth, right? But again, you're starting off with a very, very high level of complexity. It will take a while to get to where you want to be with regards to something like that. But ultimately, when you get there, you'll be saving mountains of time going forward,
it was
right?
just the
But it
thing.
can be
I kind of been
utilized.
doing it in Cloud at the moment, so I just want to see if I could bring it into, or if
Yeah.
I bring it
And you
into
should.
365.
right?
be
Because
good
I don't know
because
what you're using, but the fact that it exists outside of your 365 environment is not ideal, right? Because if you're
yeah,
uploading
well, yeah,
information to that, that's not helpful, right? It could lead to a security breach of some kind. So in order to just make sure you're avoiding any um, issues like that, it'd be better to try and utilize Copilot for such a function as opposed to any external tool. Uh, Unless you're doing it in such a bland way that it doesn't include any company, customer, or sensitive data, which
yeah.
I
It's the thing.
imagine
It's
is
very
hard to
like
do.
kind of yeah. It's kind of it's the particular questions they ask on these quality criteria are pretty
Yeah,
bland.
generic. Yeah,
Yeah, not in like the CV generation and stuff. I do that all myself, and I add it later. It's not something I ask it to do, but yeah,
yeah,
no, it's a valid concern and everything. But another reason why I'd want to bring it in, anyways, if I do have to have, I don't
no
know, stuff
worries.
in it or whatever.
Are there any other questions around the Copilot for 365 before we jump into a few of the others?
Oh, well, I did have. I think it's going to be another kind of like agent thing, but basically, some of the councils they send task orders through email. My current workflow is I have to pull the task order off, put it in like into a tracker sheet, and yeah. So I don't know internally. I don't know if they have like an object character recognition kind of thing, but if an agent could, whenever this email sends me an email, it comes in a PDF. Pull the PDF, OCR, give me the address, tenant details, description of the work, and put it into a spreadsheet. Is that like too far fetched, or is that something?
It's too far fetched in a single prompt. If you're asking Copilot to work across platforms, now that's something it may be able to do down the line. But if you're asking it to do various different things across various different platforms like Word, sorry, and Excel and PDFs, etc., it's not going to do it. Now you can utilize Copilot with PDFs, and you can get information from PDFs, and you can ask any questions you want of Copilot with PDFs, and you can of course do things within Word and Excel and utilize Copilot to streamline that process and help you with that process. But you can't tell Copilot, here's a PDF, here's a Word document, and here's an Excel file, and I want you to utilize all three of these and create something wholly new over here. And then it will go and do it for you. It won't do that.
Right, but I guess if I was in Excel and I had the all the tables formatted and everything else, and like if I said, "Can you add another row with the information of this PDF?" Was that too much, or is that
I'll double check that for you. You can create another row. You can definitely add that in. Whether or not you can attach a PDF or reference a PDF file external to the Excel, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you'd be able to do it in regards to Word either. Now, obviously, it'd be better if it was Word because that's a Microsoft application and not an Adobe application. But it's something that I can definitely look into for you. What I would do is pop an email on and ask your partner, right? Just pop it on to even Michael Daly there, and he'll come to me, and we'll look into that separately. Okay.
that's right?
And if you have any other kind of maybe slightly complex use cases, send them on in an email, and we'll definitely address them for you and try and come back to you. Okay.
That's great. Yep, thanks.
Super. Thank you very much, Matt. I can just see a lot of stuff in the chat there. Just like thank you for the presentation. I'm really glad you all enjoyed it. Absolutely loved that. Yes, Naringa Copilot can absolutely use different languages. I'm really sorry I did not get to demonstrate it in Teams because I only found out this morning that our Teams is having an issue. It's an internal issue where we have somehow locked or turned off our transcripts, and Copilot can only work in Teams when you've got a transcript. But if I had been able to demonstrate it, I would have actually shown you how you can summarize any particular topic. I normally say summarize everything John said about Excel, and it will give me a summary. And then I'll say summarize everything John said about Excel in Spanish, and it will show me that summary in Spanish. Because as a lot of organizations have multilingual people, it's great, you can speak English, but when you've got a meeting that's an hour or 2 hours long and you want to get the meeting notes for that to catch up quickly, it's great that you can actually do it in your primary language, right? It's more comforting and you can get up to speed more quickly. So yes, you can absolutely do that. Can you use Copilot in different languages? Yes, sorry, I already did that. Very informative. Thanks a lot, guys. There were a few questions within the Q&A, so I'm going to open that up, Jason. And if you just give me 1 second, I do just want to go through here very quickly. It's €30 a month per person on top of the usual 365 license. Thank you, Dan, for giving the pricing there on a monthly level. How do we turn on Copilot chat for all users in the organization? We are only 6 in a team. That's brilliant, Sarah. I would get a Copilot license for one of those users, and then you can all look at how you can utilize it before you roll it out to the other 5. You can roll out or turn on Copilot chat by just going into Edge. If you go into Edge browser on the right hand side, you will see Copilot chat there. Brian, you were using Edge during this presentation. Is there a difference between using it on a PC and a laptop? Absolutely not. I use Edge to demonstrate it only because I can demonstrate it in PowerPoint, Excel, Word, and my 365 without having to unshare and reshare my screen over and over again. But you can absolutely use it in the desktop version of the applications. In fact, it's better when you do that. I just don't to try and simplify things for myself. Does Copilot work with Power Automate and automation workflows? Daniel, Copilot absolutely works with Power Automate and Power BI and loads of different other Power Automate and automation, etc. Project, Plan Tree, and Planner. Copilot for 365, however, is different, right? Copilot for 365 predominantly works with the 365 environment and the 365 applications. There are other Copilot options if you want something to specifically work with Power Apps and Power Automation and Planner and so forth. And I'm sure if you ask the question on what you want to try and achieve to Michael Daly or someone else in IT.ie, we can provide an answer for which Copilot you should possibly be looking at in order to do that. Great question, though. Thank you very much. What do we need in terms of an AI? Grant, that's all those questions answered, I think. Jason, please, what can I answer for you there?
Hi, John. Thank you very much for that presentation. That's really, really informative and helpful. In terms of the policy that is coming into play into the European Union, we are not a heavy user of AI. You're probably not going to be using AI. Are we still be obliged to have a policy in place in specific to AI?
Well, having a policy in place at all is an internal thing, right? Having a policy in place for anything is an internal thing, right? So that's just up to yourselves. As an organization, I would absolutely recommend that you do try and utilize AI, if not Copilot, other forms of AI to try and help you, right? No matter how small you are, you can absolutely do things quicker, better, and faster by utilizing AI, right? And if you then introduce AI, it is important to have policies in place, as mentioned at the beginning of the Q&A section, right? Having a policy in place just helps you avoid any kind of pitfalls that you may fall into, right? But ultimately, I would look to try and introduce AI because, again, as I mentioned at the start of it, if you're not using AI now, okay, it's not the worst case scenario, but a year from now, you're going to be at a massive disadvantage to other companies that you're competing to. So do try and maybe look at ways in which you could use AI, even if just a small amount for your users, to try and help with various certain tasks that you do. Was there another part of that question, or was it just the policy side of it?
No, it's just the policy side of it. Yeah, I would love to introduce this literally, yes, but it's just
No
in
problem.
the. I want to make sure that we are liaising in the best practice way, of course, obviously, not just seeing the technical side of it and the tools, but obviously in the legal terms as well.
Yeah,
thanks for that, John.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions at all that anybody wants to just maybe turn on the mics and ask before we finish up? Or even throw into the chat or the Q&A, and I will tackle them as best I can. Now, we do still have 39 people currently in the lobby, which is great. Thanks very much for everybody for staying to the very end. I do appreciate it. If you know how to raise your hand at the top of the screen, just give me an idea there. Raise your hand if you are thinking about introducing AI into your environment at some point over the next 6 months. Wow, that's good. Okay, few people there jumping in. Love to see that. Really, really, really good. Really encouraging. I'm glad that you are definitely looking at AI to some extent. And I'm assuming the people that aren't putting up their hand, they've just simply left the room for a moment. That's all that is. Right. I don't see any other questions coming in. So if everybody is happy with that, talk to your current partner, talk to IT.ie, have a security review done, talk about getting a license and launching Copilot. And if you have any questions at all, just send them on and we will answer them as best we can for you. Is that okay? Thank you, guys. Have a great evening and a great weekend, actually. And I shall hopefully hear from some of you very soon. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.